So we're going to talk about the Vienna Genesis. This is 6th century. This is obviously an illuminated manuscript. And this is pigment, which is just paint, and it's on vellum. And these pages are 12 inches basically by 9 inches, and our theme is sacred spaces and ritual. Sacred because this is a text from the Bible. This is a fragment from the Genesis. Obviously, Vienna is just where it's currently located, and it's the reason why it's called that. It was most likely made in Syria, perhaps Palestine. We're not 100% sure. It's just currently in Vienna, and that's why we call it what we do. It would have initially been illuminated with silver inks. As you can see here, all of the writing has tarnished. And so it's dark, it's black, and you can read it. It's just difficult to read. Again, you'll need to recognize the word codex because that is what we call these. These are our codex because it's not actually in a book. They are pages that are put together like we would understand a modern book to be. Okay, so the pages are purple. They don't really look, let me just go back. They don't really look purple to us, but they have faded, obviously. They look sort of an orange color, but it would have been purple. And I think if you were to see them up close, they probably look more purple. And this is where the purple comes from, this Murex mollex. And, for some reason I was thinking this is some mammal, like a goat type of animal. And then I looked it up and then I felt kind of stupid. But anyway, so there were these mollusks that lived in these, and they would take them, and this is where the dye came from. You can see this shell is all purple because of this little creature that lives inside there. And so to collect all of these little mollusks and get the dye out of them, this purple dye, would have taken a lot of labor and a lot of time to do this. Purple was a royal color, has been a royal color, is still considered a royal color since Imperial Roman times. So we know that this was most likely owned by somebody who was a king or queen. It is written in Greek, and the illustrations are located at the bottom, like most would have been at this time. Miniature illustrations, again, were crucial because most people were illiterate, and so they weren't able to read the text, but they were able to understand the Bible verse and be able to look at the image and be able to know what's going on. This is a continuous narration, which is what we saw when we talked about Egyptian culture. When if you think about Hunifer's Book of the Dead, and you're looking at a image that goes from one to the next, and so it's telling a story as it's moving across the page. That's what's happening here. It's not really moving across the page, it's kind of moving through the page. And so, she's starting up here, and this is the part of the story, and then she comes along here, and then here she is again, same person, but it's telling a story as it moves across the page in this way. Just a little bit different. So this is the story from Genesis 24 from Rebecca Analyser at the well. I'm not going to read the Bible text because it is rather lengthy. You all have your Bibles. You can read this on your own. And so Rebecca appears at the well, and she is walking from a city, which is Naor, which is the back city in the background there. And she's carrying this large jug. She's going to go fetch water. As you can see in the next scene down here, she is actually fetching the water. Let's go back, sorry. So you can see here, she's fetching the water. She's at the well. Okay. Here's a close-up, and you can see he's helping her, and he has camels. And I want you to notice this little nymph here, this water nymph. Now that is certainly not Byzantine, right? Because I just mentioned a few minutes ago that nudity would have been considered passé, definitely not acceptable in the Byzantine. And so this is a certain reference to the ancient Mediterranean cultures. You can see this as a transition from this early Christian iconography from the ancient Mediterranean. Also, you see this very shortened colonnade, which is, a column after column after column after column. And they're very short, but that's what that is. Okay, so she's down the road, and she comes to this reclining pagan water nymph. And then she goes along the colonnade, and she meets up at the well. And so she's met with, he is Abraham's servant. This is Eliezer. And he is in search of a bride for Abraham's son, Isaac. Eliezer's praying to God that Isaac's future wife would help in assisting him getting the water from the well. And sure enough, her generosity results in marriage to Isaac. That's exactly what's happening here. I also want you, so if I was to ask you, so this would be a perfect essay question, ding, 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 make a note of that. So colonnade, reference to ancient Mediterranean, water nymph, reference to ancient Mediterranean. Also, lack of perspective here, really. Very flat images. There's a little bit of shading on the camel. We can see the back legs are darker here or whatever, back behind there. And you can see a little bit of value, and you can see some value on her dress, but not nearly what we would have seen in the ancient Mediterranean. Okay, so what's Byzantine? Byzantine is the heavy drapery on Rebecca as she's walking along. She's coming from this walled city also. Again, the Byzantine. All right. Here we go. Just another close-up. And so what was that story basically telling us? It's basically God is intervening to ensure a sound marriage for Abraham's son. All right, so now we're moving on to Jacob wrestling the angel. This is both of these are from the Vienna Genesis, and you need to know both of them. All right, so again, the writing is up at top, and you have the image, the miniature image at the bottom. And so you should be familiar with this story as well. Jacob is leading his family right here in the back. And here are his sons. He's leading his family and his servants and his wives. The wives are on the donkeys, and they're going across a river. And the sons are following behind. And as they cross the river, Jacob becomes separated from his family, which is over here. He's up here, moving along, becoming separated from his family. And then he wrestles with the angel. Well, at least he's interpreted as an angel. He wasn't a man, but he's interpreted as an angel. And Jacob asks him to bless him. And after that, he is no longer known as Jacob, but becomes Israel, or known as Israel. Again, purple pages would have been silver inks, and certainly among the privileged class. And again, the same reference as in ancient Mediterranean, where you have the colonnade here, and you have... let's see, what else would have that been? That's pretty much it there as far as the ancient Mediterranean. We don't have a water nymph in this one, but we have the heavy drapery that tells us this is Byzantine.